You're listening to WooSox Insider, presented by your Worcester Red Sox.
Welcome back to the WooSox Insider. This is episode 6 of season 2, the 39th overall episode. Is that
Allegedly.
correct, Bruce? Allegedly.
Allegedly.
And today, not just a special guest, we have a brand new host, almost full turnover here. Dave is the only holdout from last year. Formerly a guest of the show. You recognize her from the photo pit. And we have Nat Reid here, who will be one of our new co-hosts who will bring another dynamic to the podcast here. And so just to start it off, Nat, welcome. And why don't you, for those who haven't watched or listened to our previous episodes, if you want to give a little bit of background about yourself and what you intend on bringing to WooSox Insider.
Yeah, so very excited to be here. My appearance on a previous episode was very anticipated for me. I was very excited to join the world of podcasting as a big baseball podcast fan. So yeah, for those who don't know me, I'm a photographer and content creator for the WooSox. And I guess I'll go into a little bit of my background, but I went to Salve Regina University, majored in communications and psychology. And so there was when my career in baseball kind of started. I was a social media coordinator and photographer for the baseball team there for 5 seasons. And it was a great intro to the industry because I kind of got to learn on my own, apply things I learned in class to my work. And that was when I kind of became a photographer as well. So it was a lot of fun. Photographed a lot of league championships and regional appearances. And from there, I got an internship doing social media and photography with the YD Red Sox of the Cape Cod Baseball League. And then I ended up with the WooSox. So that's a bit of my background.
So that's something that I didn't realize, or maybe I had heard it before, but YD Red Sox, what year did you work with the Cape League?
2018 and 2019. So 2 Red Sox prospects right now were actually on the 2018 team that I worked for. David Hamilton and Christian Koss. They were with the Portland Sea Dogs last year.
Very cool. I couple years before you in 2013 worked for the Orleans Firebirds. I was their video broadcast coordinator. There wasn't
I
such.
didn't know that.
Yep, and there was not a social media role in that point because
2013.
Yeah, Dave, 2013.
I was
Okay,
in 7th grade.
I was actually I think the first social media intern for YD at least that I know of. So yeah, it was definitely cool to see how their interns nowadays, there's a lot more roles even from when I was there. So great internship, great time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's I mean, if you're able to find a way to stay down on the Cape for the summer, I mean, there's no better way to spend a summer in between college semesters than being down on the Cape and being able to see some of the best prospects that are in baseball all come together in the same league. And you could see him at Polar Park once again this year when we will play our Cape Cod Classic. I believe that's somewhere later on in the season. Producer Dave will fill in something here that'll make me sound like I know it is. So Nat, baseball photography, but what sport is your true? Where does your true passion lie?
I get asked this question a lot nowadays, especially because I'm also working in hockey. But yeah, I grew up a hockey player, but baseball was the first sport I ever played. I was inspired by the 2004 World Series champions, of course. I was 6 years old, and that's one of my first memories of baseball. Big Papi was my idol. So was Johnny Damon. Those were my 2 favorites. And that kind of inspired me to start playing baseball when I was 7. And I played on a boys team and I loved it. Went on to play softball too for a few years. But yeah, I don't know. It's tough to say because I ended up playing hockey competitively up until I played in college as well. But I love photographing both sports. They're very different to photograph as well, I've realized. Just totally different all around. I mean, you're inside for hockey, and then for baseball, you have the sun, the rain. If you're at Polar Park, the snow. Um, so I do love working both. So I guess I can't really pick.
So
But
actually, I think that's an interesting point there. I think a lot of people will look at you holding a camera, the big fancy lens, and they'll go, "Wow, bet that camera takes good pictures." It's like
oh yeah.
that's not how it works. No, I take the good pictures because I know how to work this camera. So what would be like a difference for you going just to, if you're setting up, it's a 1 o'clock game on a Sunday, it's a beautiful sunny day. How would that be different for you and how you prepare to take photos than it would for you to be at a Worcester Railers game where you're inside, you have the different lighting and all that kind of stuff. So what is like, what do you do to set yourself up to be able to take pictures in each one of those settings?
Well, I guess the first step is making sure my memory cards are cleared and formatted.
Yep.
And
It's a good step.
yeah, and that I have enough to shoot the game. So that is, I guess, step one, and hopefully being caught up on editing and everything before the game. It always feels great to be caught up. And then I will head over to the camera closet. If I'm at Polar Park, I'll probably grab 2 camera bodies. Usually one with a wider lens, like a 20 or a 24-70, so I can get those dramatic shots of the players running out of the dugout onto the field kind of thing. Shooting pregame, things like that. I like having a wider lens. And then for the other one, depending on who's using the 400, because Taylor and I often switch off, I'll either have the 400, or if you're saying a 1 o'clock game, I'll probably have a 70-300 on. And for the railers, I'm using my equipment, which I've actually switched over to Sony because of working for the WooSox. I was a Nikon shooter before this, but now I am Sony, so I'm very excited. I have my own Sony gear, so it's kind of the same thing, but I only have one camera body, so it's been a little bit more difficult to kind of decide which one to have on when in terms of a lens. I have a 24-70 and a 70-200. So usually when I'm shooting the game, I'll use the 70-200, which gives me a pretty good range with the whole ice. But then when I'm shooting the players kind of coming off the ice, I usually can anticipate when that happens, of course. I usually run back to the press room, take off the 70-200, put on the 24-70, and run back out so I can get those shots of the players kind of high-fiving the kids as they're going down the tunnel. So it's a little bit different. And it's also, the timing is also there with hockey. You know how long you have for the most part, unless we're going into OT. But with baseball, obviously that's a lot different. So they're very, very different sports to shoot, and they're also my 2 favorite sports. So
Not a bad deal.
Yeah, it's been great to learn how to do both.
So people can see you. Sorry, Dave. People can see you at the DCU Center and also and at Polar Park. If you ever see you running around with the multiple cameras and so at the DCU Center, are you sticking your lens through the glass like in your little photography circle?
No, they actually don't have a hole in the glass.
Oh, okay. I feel like I'd be afraid to do that. Sorry, Dave, I cut you off there.
No, it's all good. So earlier you were saying in the Cape League you got to photo people such as like Christian Koss, but that wasn't the last time you photoed Christian Koss, because last year you got to go to spring training along with other members of the production crew. So wondering if you could talk a little bit about that experience as we get closer to spring training this year.
Yeah, so it was really cool to see, David Hamilton and Christian Koss, who I hadn't seen since the Cape League in 2018. And now they're in the Red Sox organization. So it was really cool to see that. But also, Christian Koss hit 2 home runs in one of the games I was at. And one of them was the walk-off for the second game of spring training last year. So it was just so cool to cover that. I think that was honestly one of probably my favorite memory of spring training. which is kind of crazy to think about because obviously like my dream has always been to photograph the Red Sox and be in the Red Sox, photo pit. And I was shooting next to the Red Sox creative team as well, which was really cool. But then I thought about it and I was like, I met this player back in 2018 and here he is now playing in the organization. And so that was a really cool spring training memory. And after the win, he also signed pretty much every single ball, hat, glove, everything that fans were throwing at him. He stayed behind probably an extra 30 minutes to sign all these autographs for people. And it was a really cool experience to be there to photograph that and also like remember what it felt like to photograph that back in the Cape League. So
now you weren't down there just for the WooSox either in Florida last year. What other team were you taking photos for?
yeah, so I guess I'll back it up to 2020 when this was my senior year at Salve Regina. And I was supposed to go with the baseball team to Florida for their kind of spring training trip, which is basically not their first games. They usually play a couple of games before they go down, weather permitting. But they play about 8 games down in Florida in the kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. Don't know Florida very well. But it's kind of like you can fly into Tampa or you can fly into Orlando, and it's kind of in between that area. I think it was Lakeland. So that's where it was.
Sounds right to me.
Yeah, sure. So I went down with the team in 2022 because I still had my plane ticket from 2020 because we never went down due to COVID. And we were supposed to leave the day after the NHL canceled, the NBA canceled. So that was kind of the timeline. So I hadn't used this plane ticket since, and they invited me down, and a lot of my best friends on the team were still there doing their 5th and 6th years due to having extra eligibility. And so it was great because I went down with the team, pretty much the same team that I had kind of gone through college with, and I photographed their games. And that is when Dylan McCaffrey, shout out Decaf, texted me one day, maybe called, and just said, "Hey, what are the odds you can meet us?" Meaning him, Taylor, and Lexi, in Fort Myers. And I was like, yeah, like I'm probably close to there, right? Like, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know, Florida. Like, come on, it's got to be like a quick drive, right? Wrong. I think it was about 2 hours. Obviously, I didn't have a car. And I have a family friend who lives down in Florida. He lives near Miami. So if you know Florida, you know that I'm nowhere near Miami in wherever I was. And I called him up because he was the only person I knew down in Florida. And I said, how should I get to Fort Myers? Like, should I buy a flight to Fort Myers? I'm sure it would be a quick flight. Turns out it is. So Mike, my family friend, is a pilot. And, when I texted him, I didn't expect him to be like, yeah, I'll fly you myself. But that is what happened. And it's kind of crazy because I feel like a lot of people didn't hear this story. Like, I think when I was at the ballpark the other day, I was telling someone this story and they just had no idea that it had happened. And this is like a really funny story because this was my second flight ever. Like, my first flight ever was going down for Salve Regina a week before this. And it was fine. Like, I didn't get any motion sickness. I'm like kind of used to getting motion sickness on like amusement park rides, car rides, but the plane wasn't bad. But mind you, I was in a giant JetBlue plane. So I'm now at this private airport in, I think, Lakeland, Florida. And, Mike flies in and he's got this little 4-seater plane. And I walked outside with my like 50-pound duffel bag of WooSox and Salve baseball apparel. And I went, wow, what's this? And he was like, this is our ride to Fort Myers. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. And that was like the craziest thing I've ever done, probably, because when people ask how I got there, I'm just like, oh yeah, like I got flown there like in a private plane. And
No big
the
deal.
whole time I got really bad motion sickness. I had a headache. And I'm just sitting there, leaning against the window like this, and my head on my hands on my head. For those who are not watching this, I just realized it's more my hands on my head, leaning against the window. And Mike is so excited, so enthusiastic about flying me for the first time around Florida. And he's like, hey, look down, like here's this, and look to your left, like here's this. And I'm like, uh-huh. And we're going through the clouds, and like in these mini planes, like you can feel everything. Like,
Oh yeah.
I had a little headset on too, because I was talking to the pilot and the co-pilot, and well, I wasn't really talking, to be honest. They were talking to me. And I was just like, like thinking about the water bottle I needed when we landed. And so we did land. It was a pretty quick flight. I'm pretty sure it was like 45 minutes maybe. Which was really cool. Like that's faster than the Uber I probably would have had to have taken.
Yeah, that is
100%.
quite an appearance.
Yeah, so we land in Fort Myers, and I said thank you, and I had to run because I was making I think 1:00 game over at JetBlue, and this was their first game of spring training. So obviously the whole time I'm in the back, I'm just thinking about like Red Sox spring training, like, oh my gosh, I have to get there. And yeah, I called Dylan. I'm like, I'm here. I don't know where I am. Turns out the Uber dropped me off at the opposite side of the ballpark that I needed to be. So I'm dragging my 50-pound duffel bag of clothes across like the parking lot at JetBlue. I'm on the phone with Dylan. I'm like, where are you? Do you have a water for me? And I made it to like the media door, and Dylan was there to greet me, hands me a water bottle, takes my bag, hands me a camera, and goes, go have fun. And that is how I arrived at spring training last year.
Showing up to spring training in style, and we got some players that are showing up to spring training in style this year. A few guys got some non-roster invites. Nat, if you want to share some of those names.
Yeah, I didn't pull it up. I think Brendan did, right?
My bad. I thought.
No, all good. No, we were just going to talk about the non-roster invites for those who don't know. So there's the 40-man roster, which is the major league roster. And so in order to go to major league spring training camp, you have to either be on the 40-man roster or you have what's called a non-roster invite. So a non-roster invite for this year, for example, we'll see a name and a face that everyone knows around Polar Park. We know we have Ryan Fitzgerald is on that list. We've got guys like Nick Sogard, Kristen Koss is one of them. Chase Shugart, who I believe had the close of the no-hitter, closed out the no-hitter. Victor Santos, you got Taylor Broadway, Dan Antavilla, and we've got some more. We also have some other major league names that you might recognize, like Jorge Alfaro. Do I have that name right?
The walk-off king of 2022 for the Padres last year.
There we go. And we have Ronaldo Hernandez, another name we recognize here at Polar Park.
Walk-off king for July 4th in 2022.
There we go. We have Nico. Yeah, he did catch a no-hitter. Yeah, he was the other part of the battery there. Nico Goodrum, who is who spent a decent amount of time in the bigs will be also one of the non-roster invites. And Durbin Feltman's on that list as well. And these are guys who are going to be competing, and their, ultimate goal obviously is to get up to the big leagues. And as a non-roster invite, these games are huge in spring training for them. A lot of the major league players, they're working there. If they know they're on the 40-man, they know that they're going to be playing every day on a big league club. Spring training is their time to fine tune everything, to kind of get themselves, ramp back up for the season. But for those non-roster invites, they're playing their hearts out every single time they're out on that field, because they're trying to prove that they're good enough to be on that 40-man roster. In order for them to be on that 40-man roster, that means someone else has to come off of it. So they've got to outplay that guy that's in front of them. And so it adds a really cool dynamic to spring training baseball, because you can see guys that will, I remember like there were years where it's like Ortiz is batting like 150 in spring training, and everyone's like, what's happening? And it's like, then he goes and he rips it up. And, when we actually get to opening day and those type of things. And then you'll see guys like last year, like Ryan Fitzgerald was tearing up spring training. And that's another one of those guys that you can expect to hopefully be doing that same thing this year. And we know that, he left spring training last year. He didn't get that invite up to the 40-man, but he was on the WooSox, and he started off in Worcester looking like a major league talent. He was, I think we were, I don't know, must have been second or third week of the season, and his batting average was still like above 500. So it's a really cool thing to see. And as I just let Nat know before this, I'm going to be making my first appearance down spring training to go get some video and to join Cooper Boardman. And we're going to be down there for actually, if this comes out on Monday, I'll be down there on the 21st, Tuesday. So you'll have to give me all the ins and outs of JetBlue Park, and also, restaurants and those type of things, the important stuff.
Very cool park.
Mm-hmm.
It was obviously my first time seeing it, but it was also my first time seeing like a baseball park with like palm trees around it. And honestly, like that just made it even cooler, because I love the warm weather. And of course that was my first time on a plane, so haven't been around those palm trees a lot, but they really add to the ballpark.
Now, to kind of go back a little bit, leading into spring training, a unique thing that happens here in Worcester and also Boston is Truck Day. So Truck Day is when the Red Sox will fill up an actual truck, an 18-wheeler, and they will send it down. They go down to, they start from Fenway, and the normal trip is Fenway, go down to Fort Myers. This year, we were graced with the presence of the truck at Polar Park. They made a stop, and we brought in our good friend, our truck driver, Al. He was able to come into the park, and we gifted him a few things, gave him a sweatshirt, gave him a shirt, gave him a hat. Of course, he got to meet Smiley Ball, and he got to meet Worcester and Roberto the Rocket, got to talk to some fans and things. But I think actually this is a little impromptu little game here I'm going to play with you guys. I want you to tell me, this is going to be a guessing game here for you. So the haul each year that they bring down is supposedly the same each year, or around the same. Nat, we'll start with your guess. How many baseballs were in the truck going down to Fort Myers?
I saw the tweet. I saw the numbers.
Okay, Dave, you go first then.
Wow. So wow. First episode, she's already cheating in a game, but
ridiculous.
So it's like a full scale 18-wheeler.
It's a 18-wheeler truck.
And how many baseballs? Are they free baseballs, or are they in like a box?
So they're going to be they're in a box, but you got to imagine. So
okay, that makes a huge difference in this now that they're in boxes.
Sure.
I'm gonna say 32,642.
Better than I would have guessed. I would have guessed definitely less, but it's actually, the number is 20,400.
Okay, so definitely off, but
You're definitely off, sure, but I don't think I would have been anywhere near that. But
hey, I was
okay,
closer to 20,000 than 50,000.
we're going rapid fire here. How many bats
in the truck.
in the truck?
2,795.
1,100. How many batting gloves?
679.
200. How many batting helmets?
157.
200. We'll do. This is kind of. I'll give you a hint. This one's kind of low. How many cases of bubble gum?
75.
20.
That's
what I'm telling you. I mean, we gotta.
That
I don't
seems
know.
a little low.
I don't know the size of these cases. Though.
I think you're fabricating.
These could be big cases.
I think I'm being swindled out of a victory.
I'm thinking
Yeah,
like the
you
classic
are.
double bubble
Bin?
little. Yep.
Yeah, the bin. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I would like to say it's more than that, but I don't know the actual numbers. But yeah, they have 400 pairs of socks, 400 t-shirts, 300 pairs of pants, 160 white game jerseys, 320 batting practice tops. You've got 20 cases of bubble gum, 60 cases of sunflower seeds. Of course, you got the balls, you got the bats, and then
5 golden rings.
5 golden rings, yeah. And you got some WooSox gear in there now. And so, of course, that means now that we are on the eve of spring training, and the Red Sox will play their first spring training game on February 24th, where they will take on Northeastern, which is one of the coolest traditions, I think, in sports, or at least in Major League Baseball, is the fact that Northeastern, sometimes BC, and other teams from the area that are similar to like your teams that you covered in Salve are down there for their New England baseball. Can't play it up here during March or during February. So I think that's one of the coolest things. And this year, if I'm not mistaken, this one will be televised on Nesson. You won't have to go look for it, which is always my thing every single year. I get so excited for the season to start, and then the first game isn't televised. This one will be televised, which is awesome. It'll be at JetBlue Park in Fort Myers. And then, since we're on the topic of opening day and the season starting, of course we have to talk about opening day at Polar Park, which it is opening day. It'll be a 4:05 start on March 31st, which is a Friday, which of course means Unibank fireworks, and it'll be Modern Millennial Classics. That was one of the favorites from last year towards the end of the season there. And I mean, what better way to start off the season than with a firework Friday? I mean, that is it's honestly my favorite part about this park. And I think people get very, if you haven't seen the fireworks at Polar Park, it is something to see, because before working here, I had never seen fireworks being put off that close. You're in center field. They're in center field, or they set up. It's one of the coolest experiences, and it's all to the music and everything like that. And I'm sure Dr. Charles has something, planned up for opening day to make it extra special. So yeah, once again, it's a 4:05 start. There are possibly a couple tickets left for that one. You can get on there and get those tickets, which of course, WooSox.com, or you can go to 508-500-8888. So I don't know. I just lost my train of thought. Where are we going from this one?
I mean, we love a 4:05 start. That's, in my opinion, those are my favorite games that start at 4:05. The lighting is beautiful. You got a nice, usually in the middle of the summer, a sunset. The golden hour.
Mm-hmm. And new this year at Polar Park, there's going to be even more heaters in the ballpark, which means that those early spring games, again, March 31st, that is an early game, early in the season for New England. So obviously it will get a little chilly, but fear not. We'll have heaters in the concourse this year, in addition to a bunch of different new things, which if you can catch it on Nesson, the WooSox hot stove is out right now, and you can learn about all the different things that are brand new in the park, with the addition of, we'll have a new fan deck out in beyond the berm. In addition, there's new ticket booths outside of Gate B and up on Summit Street. So you can go ahead and you can get, and also outside Gate C. So every single one of our gates now has a ticket booth that you can go up to. So you can go and gather your tickets. You can go and buy tickets on the day of games. And then I think one of my personal favorites is we have added clam chowder and lobster rolls onto the menu. And for those who do in-seat dining, big deal. You can now get chicken fingers brought to your seat.
That's incredible.
What more could you want? What more could you want?
Honestly, I can't think of anything better.
So there's a lot going on at the park this year. Opening day is what feels like right around the corner. Every single day, there's more things happening at Polar Park. People are getting prepared. Everyone's getting ready. And for this episode of WooSox Insider, once again, Nat, welcome to the squad.
Happy to be here.
Happy to be here. Happy to have you. For Dave Leonardi, for Nat Reid, I'm Brendan Black, and this is WooSox Insider. We'll see you at Polar Park.